What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of First and 56. Rondo Griffin, Anthony Gulick, no Marcus Martin, but it's a weird show for Colts Nation. I mean, 9 years in the waiting, but Ballard finally splashes the free agent market. So we've got a lot to get to, surprisingly, in the offseason, this very early in the offseason. First things first, Gulick. I mean, I don't want to say that Ballard is off of the hot seat, or off of the books. But at least he did, for the most part, keep to his word and say he was going to be a lot different offseason. So first things first, Gulick, the fact that he actually did put up instead of shut up.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I think we both predicted that some moves were going to be made, and I think this is it's just so crazy because the entire NFL, the entire NFL world has been going ahead and saying, "Oh my God, Chris Ballard's finally doing something." Even like big content creators are like, "Man, Ballard's cooking with his job on the line." So maybe that's all it took, borderline getting fired, but hey, it happened.
Okay, now we can hear me. But like you said, the fact that it took so long to finally get what we were waiting for. I mean, it took 8 years essentially of failure for him to finally realize that it's a different sport. You need outside help in the sport of football. It's not like the NBA or even hockey where you can kind of build a team purely from the draft and that be successful. You're rostering 53 players. So you need that many. You need a lot of manpower. The average draft, if you go by default, you're only drafting 7 guys. So you're only adding in 7 rookies. And so like obviously you want to get your core from the draft, but if you're trying to build a winner, you need that outside help. So again, it's good. It was good to obviously see him, like I said, put up instead of shut up. But I mean, job's not done yet. Job is definitely not done yet.
Yep, got that right. Job's definitely not done yet, and I'm excited to see what's going on. I mean, we're going to talk about some of the contracts soon here, but the contracts so far, the way that Ballard finagled them, it's not entirely huge cap hits in the first year. How he finagled it, I don't know. But Ballard definitely did his thing here, especially with guaranteed money and incentives and stuff like that. Like I said, we're going to talk about it some more later, but some of these contracts actually look really, really good in hindsight when you look at how Ballard broke them down. So I was really impressed with what was done, but it's only been the first few days. Technically, today was when contracts were finalized, but we're not done yet, and we'll see what happens. Trades could always happen as well.
Yeah, exactly. So let's jump right into it. So let's start with the opposite. The first deal pen, the first deal signed. He brings a safety from the Vikings, Cam Bynum. So you look at his numbers. I would say nothing necessarily impresses you, but it fills a need. We had a hole at starting safety. We knew Blackman was kind of iffy whether he was going to come back or not, and even then, Blackman was, I'll say average at best when it comes to his past season. But so you bring in a guy where you look at his numbers, again, nothing's necessarily going to impress you or shout out, but he is a pass defender, and it is something we've kind of lacked when it comes to that secondary. Also, very importantly, he doesn't miss games. Healthy. Definitely needed that. So, Gulick, your opinions on the Cam Bynum signing? 4 years, 60 million total.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Obviously, for you know, heritage reasons, Cam Bynum is one of my favorite players, just because he's a Filipino dude, and I'm Filipino as well. So I already got his jersey lined up. That's going to be my new favorite player here for the Colts for that reason alone. I love it, but bias aside. The contract is a great contract. This kid is a young ascending guy here. He's gonna fit like a glove in with this defense. I mean, new coordinator. You got to give this guy the horses, man. And that was a big gripe last year with the Bengals D coordinator. You took away all his horses. He was running with pretty much rookies and castaways. Once Jesse Bates, real ball hawk in that secondary, you know, he definitely fell off a little bit because you took away guys that fit like a glove here. And um, this guy's coming from Minnesota. He's not coming from Tennessee or the Giants or one of those defenses that got torn up. He was the best safety on on Minnesota's top five defense, and we were on a little bit of a hiatus here. But out of all the teams we played last year, I tell people all the time when just talking about the Colts in general, the best team I thought that we played last year was Minnesota. Now, granted, they got bounced in the first round, but the different looks that Flores was throwing at us, it was confusing Flacco. I mean, actually, Cam Bynum got a pick in that game off of Flacco. So, he's going to fit like a glove because, Lou from the Bengals, he likes to do the same things. He likes to throw in a bunch of different looks, and he's going to fit like a glove. So, people might say, oh, it's a big contract or whatnot, but I think it's going to be a great move. And honestly, I'm super happy about Cam Bynum.
Like I said, I definitely don't hate it. It wasn't necessarily a guy I had on my radar. I was kind of purely looking at the cornerback market. I wasn't even really necessarily even looking at the safeties. But so for me, it was a genuine surprise. But like I said, so you look at it what he does, and I'm happily okay with it. Like you said, you're bringing a guy who came in from a good defense for one. Obviously, and then two, we've talked about on this show. The big thing was the health. This is a guy who doesn't miss games. So we've needed that, especially the past few years, the injuries that we've had in our secondary, let alone the lack of consistency that we've had in our secondary. So bringing in a guy who he plays, you know what you get. And again, the big thing is that he's essentially a center fielder. He's not going to get many interceptions, but he gets pass deflections. He's very good when it comes to the pass game. Obviously, in the run game, he's not the greatest. If you depending on how much you trust PFF, he grades low when it comes to run stopping, but that's fine because that's what Nick Cross is for. So you
Yep.
kind of get that balance back now, and like we've been said that there's still more work to be done. But the fact that it is a splash, it was one of the first moves. It fixes a hole as well. Because we'll talk about it later. Now it changes draft implications. We potentially are looking differently now at 14 than what we were thinking. The last show about a week ago. So you get that, and while we're speaking on it, so let's move to number two, which is the next move, which again, a lot of happy Colts fans. I'm kind of ambivalent on it, but I definitely don't hate the move. You bring in Charvarius Ward from the Niners. He was a big one that a lot of Colts fans wanted. A lot of Colts fans, were mocking him to Indy. It's official. We've got him. So, Gulick, Charvarius Ward, what you think?
Yeah, once again, I thought this was an A-plus signing from Ballard here. It fills a need. It definitely fills a need. I liked the idea in the draft, to be honest, of going with a corner. Just like we said on last show here, getting Will Johnson, that would be great. You're adding competition to the room. But, this guy is a certified CB1. And, you can talk about last year and whatnot, but, he went through tragedy with his family. And he pretty much just wasn't really in it mentally. So, I'm not going to use last year against him. But 2 years ago, when he was fully healthy, I mean, you look at his numbers. I mean, he was graded a top 10 corner. And, Ballard, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, because I think he's a great drafter, he's not great at drafting corners. He's not. So the last time we had a number one corner was Stephon Gilmore. And when we had a number one corner before him was Xavier Rhodes, whether people want to say if he was good or not. That first year back in 2020 when we had Rivers, you pick him up off of the Vikings. He was really good. He was a shutdown corner. Receivers, I don't really remember receivers having huge games against Xavier Rhodes. And I think I was saying it in the offseason too. I said, you got to bring in a guy like Buck. A guy that's going to save this defense is going to be somebody from the NFC. It's going to be a 49er or a Ram or or a Buccaneer, somebody from the NFC is going to have to change the course of this defense. And we got our guy, 49ers, Charvarius Ward. I'm all over that. And I think once again, you're giving Lou some horses to work with here. You're giving Lou some horses. So I think, in terms of bringing in competition, it's great. because Chris Ballard wasn't screwing around about competition. Now you got a three-way battle going for that CB2 spot, and Charvarius Ward, I think he's gonna fit like a glove. So I'm super happy with that, and the contract as well, just like you said. Yeah, I believe it was 3 for $60 million. I mean, Carlton Davis got that from the Patriots, and he's better than Carlton Davis. So that's a win to me.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I'm not necessarily on the fact of that you had to bring, someone from the NFC to get in here, but it was more so the point of that you need some outside hires to kind of rejuvenate this team or rejuvenate this defense. And so you bring a guy, Travis Ward, from a successful San Francisco team where, and again, kind of similar to Buck, hasn't won the big game, but he's been there. He's been in an environment that's been around success. So he can obviously come to this locker room, he can come to this defense, and he can change the attitude in there, if you will. Not to mention the fact that obviously it fills a hole at CB1. Now, I didn't watch too many Niner games, but I do know that they have a good defense over there. So I can safely say that, it's not like he was necessarily getting burnt, anything like that over there. He's a decent corner. I don't think he's ever going to lead. Again, I don't think he's ever going to lead the league in picks or lead the league in the pass deflections. But again, what we talked about, it fills a need, less pressure. And now, a Juju Brent's obviously a guy that I was big on when we drafted him. You make his life easier. Now he's not necessarily expected to come in and be CB1. You can kind of let him rehab, but like you said, the other thing, depth. Let's look at the past couple seasons. At one point we were down like CB4 and CB5, which I don't care what team you are, that you're not winning many football games, or I say you're not competing that well when you're down to essentially practice squad guys having to take significant snaps for you. So, but again, you fill a massive hole, and it wasn't even a guy I necessarily wanted. Like if I had to rank the corners on the open market, I probably had him at around like 3 or 4. Personally, I was on the Jaden Reed, the corner from the Jets. His last name's Reed. I don't know what his first name is. That's
DJ.
Thank you, DJ Reed. I was big on him. I wanted him probably as my first priority, but I'm not going to complain at the fact that you did get somebody who can play significant snaps, has CB1 experience, because this kind of thing we went to of that. If it's not quarterback as the hardest position to transition coming from college to the pros, cornerback is easily the next toughest position to make that transition. So obviously, drafting a Juju Brent and trying to expect him to come in and be CB1 was ridiculous. We did the same thing with Rock Ya-Sin back in the day. And again, really, kind of how we talked about it at the end of last season and coming into this season, you have Kenny Moe as the veteran of that group, and then the rest, it's all babies, essentially. You got year two players, rookies. That's not necessarily going to work. And on top of the fact that while we love Kenny Moe as a great player, I don't think your best secondary member can be a slot corner. I think that I don't care what scheme you kind of run. I think it's counterproductive football. Obviously, Kenny Moe is going to be on the field for the bulk, if not all, defensive snaps, but you still need that lockdown guy on the outside, or at least, and even if he's not a lockdown guy, you need that dependable guy on the outside. Like you said, we haven't necessarily even had that since, obviously Gilmore was shut down, but, Xavier Rhodes. Xavier Rhodes was a very reliable corner. So you fill a need, and again, repeating myself from earlier, definitely changes how we view the draft. So, Gulick, we got the 2 moves we liked. Let's talk about the big boy elephant in the room. And that is Daniel Danny Dimes Jones is deemed as the competition that's going to test Anthony Richardson here. So I'll let you go first. Take it away.
Yeah. At first I was pretty heated about it, and obviously my phone was blowing up just like everybody else's. Because it's a pretty memeable move. Um, you know, I don't know, but personally, um, I'm a little indifferent on it. I don't like it nor hate it. The only reason that I think it's a good move in retrospect is because if Anthony Richardson can't beat out Daniel Jones, like, this guy's got to go. Like, this guy, Daniel Jones, this dude stinks. I mean, let's just be real, man. He had that one good season 2 years ago, the year that we had Matt Ryan. Or 3 years ago now. Time's flying, but back in 22, 23, when they won like 9 games and made the playoffs and they won that fluky playoff game. I mean, he fooled everybody and he got that bag from the Giants and he came right back down to earth the next year. You gave him that big contract and he stunk. So coincidentally, I think people were saying that the two quarterbacks with the lowest passer rating last year were Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. So I think if Richardson, once again, if this guy cannot beat out Daniel Jones, then we got issues. And I think it's good that you're giving. I think this is legit competition to the quarterback, to be honest with you, um, because I think Daniel Jones. I mean, even though this guy sucks, I think he's like fringe level starter versus like good backup. So like I would have personally Daniel Jones over like Carson Wentz or like Jacoby or Josh Dobbs, even though those might be better options because like if we're talking quarterback competition and we bring in like Jacoby Brissett, I mean we know how Jacoby is. He'll have a nice camp. He'll go out and win you a couple games and then he'll come back down to earth. But like Daniel Jones is just a smidge better than those types of guys, and that's not saying much. So if Anthony can't beat this guy out, then we're looking at another quarterback next year. So we'll see.
Yeah, you're hitting on all of the points, and you're exactly right. Obviously, first things first. Like, immediately, my reaction. I see the news. My friends text me. I hate it. Obviously, like you said, Daniel Jones is terrible. That is not to say that Andrew Richardson has not been terrible. Obviously, he's been terrible. That's why we're in this situation. But when you think about it, of like of testing him, I like it in the fact that kind of like you said, to where it's like, all right, if you can't beat this guy, then we're done with you. It's almost like it's almost feels like it's like a fake fleece, like a fake test, kind of like a joke, because I think we can all understand and realize that Daniel Jones was not and obviously I'm not talking starter, so obviously not Sam Darnold or anything like, or Geno Smith or anything like that. But I think we can all recognize that Daniel Jones was not the best, free agent quarterback on the market. You could argue it's Jacoby, Josh Dobbs, mate. If Justin Fields, if you really want to play that game, that's fine. Where I do like Daniel Jones is if you want to talk about skill set or skill ability, because you and I talked about it. Daniel Jones can run, so you've got the legs element. If for whatever reason, knock on wood, he has to come in the game, playbook's not going to change. We're not looking at a Flacco drop off or even a Minshew drop off. So at least your QB running plays, if you will still be available in the repertoire. As young
Yeah.
as 27. The contract, we were texting about this. The contract kind of scares me because, like that's a lot of money for a backup. I understand it's a 1-year deal, so obviously, it's a free out, but that definitely does concern me. And I'm hoping that the only reason why that number was so high was just to detract him from other teams. You know what I mean? But if it turns into a case of where it was us bidding against ourselves, then I've got some serious concerns, because that almost kind of tells me that you really do have a lack of faith in Anthony Richardson, which obviously the product that we've seen has not been ideal, especially when you talk about a guy that you've drafted at number 4. You draft someone that high, he's supposed to be the franchise quarterback, the franchise guy. Obviously the injuries haven't been great. The accuracy problems have not been great. But kind of as I've said, really the past 2 years, like I said with Flacco, said with Minshew, Daniel Jones better not touch the field except for the case of a blowout. I don't care who's being blown out, but that better be the only reason he touches the field. And like to bring it full circle, you said it. If Anderson can't beat him in camp, and if for whatever reason gets benched during the season, then unfortunately you've got to let him go, and then we've got to really look at kind of restarting this whole thing. And it's obviously going to mean the end of Ballard, but yeah, we're going to be in deeper issues and deeper crap if he can't beat out a Daniel Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and my standpoint like stays the same with the Flacco argument. I mean, the kid's got untapped potential, and I mean, even though Daniel Jones is only 28, I mean, that dude's capped. I mean, he's not getting better. he's not getting better. There's no upside to what I mean. He is what he is. He's just a mid quarterback. The dude, even in his best season, he was I think the 17th best ranked quarterback from PFF. He's never been a top 15 quarterback. Like the guy is mid. The guy is mid. Like it's not Baker going to Tampa because Baker at least had you know at least 1 to 2 productive seasons in Cleveland. Granted, not the one before he left, but that one year that the Cleveland went to the playoffs the same year as us, he actually had a pretty good year that year. So it's not like this is a guy who's been good before, and he just in a bad situation. I mean, the Giants benched his ass to see if it would solve their problem. Now, granted, they beat us because the defense decided to take off, but like when it came to real comp, Drew Lock didn't save them. It wasn't a quarterback problem. Now, granted, was it a bad situation? Yes, but this dude fooled everybody. Like I said, only throwing for 3,000 yards. Dude fooled everybody. Got over 150 million and then dipped. So this better be a one. Like even if Anthony loses, like this better be a 1 year thing with Daniel Jones. This
Yeah.
guy is not. This guy is not a good football player, man.
Right, which kind of goes back to the thing we said, obviously prior to free agency opening, and kind of why I prefer to Josh Dobbs. Because my logic was that if Richardson doesn't work out, Dobbs is a nice bridge quarterback. So it kind of brings it back to that. Okay, you signed him to a 1 year deal. Like I said, my gut says that it feels like a false test because obviously the 1 year deal, like you said, he's clearly not the answer. If Andrew Richardson doesn't work out, you're not going to turn to Daniel Jones. Like it's definitely not Baker Mayfield situation. And so you. I don't know. It's like the more we talk about it, it's like I'm starting to hate it again. But I guess I'll kind of keep my same motive of that. If all he's doing is holding a clipboard, then I don't care. I really
Yeah.
don't care. Obviously, 1 year deal doesn't affect the cap, so I don't care when it comes to that. I firmly believe that you've got to beat him in camp. There's no excuse for you beating him in camp. Obviously, I've heard all the rumors, the stories, whether it's truth or not, of Richardson's lack of work ethic, the laziness, showing up late to meetings, wanting to leave early. Whether all of that's true or not, I don't care. It's a new year. It's a new season. I'll give you a clean slate, but it is put up or shut up year this year. Kind of like we said, you're on the Paris Campbell treatment this year. Now, the difference is that you can earn a longer contract than Paris Campbell. And
Correct.
obviously I think we all kind of agree that Richardson can take us to new heights. But I don't think I want to get into stat predictions just yet. I'll just keep it simple. He's got to beat Daniel Jones. If you don't beat Daniel Jones, we're in trouble.
Yeah, yeah, and like this narrative crap. I mean, I think all Colts fans can advocate. It's just a Pat McAfee thing because he's got something personal against Anthony Richardson. I don't know what it is. I don't think we've ever talked about it this year, but this dude's got literally something personal against Anthony Richardson because when Flacco came in and shit the bed because he was advocating for Flacco all year, you didn't hear nothing from Pat. You didn't hear nothing. But now, I mean, literally, I sent it to our little group chat here today. They had Dan Orlovsky on, and Dan Orlovsky said he heard from people in the building that all this BS about him, leaving early and being one of the first few ones to leave. That's all BS. That's all BS. There's no issues with his work ethic. So I think all these fake narratives, all these fake narratives are just pushed by Pat McAfee, which is so odd because he was beloved by all Colts fans. But this dude's trying to push a narrative, and as soon as Daniel Jones got signed, who was the one guy who loved it? Pat McAfee out here calling him Indiana Jones, like that's some cool dude. Like he didn't get benched. Like if the Giants were good, he's still there right now. If they were good last year, it's not like he got benched after 3 games in. He got benched with 4 or 5 games left. That dude played a lot of football and he stunk. I don't care that your receivers suck. Good players still elevate their teams. Deshaun Watson, I was at the game the COVID year when Deshaun Watson was tearing us up with Chad Hansen and Kiki QT. Like, come on, bro. I don't like what are we doing? You have Malik Neighbors and you still sucked. Come on, bro. We're not falling for these fake narratives that Daniel Jones is better than Anthony Richardson.
Let's
To
not
be honest
forget the
with you,
fact that the Giants picked him over Saquon.
that's true.
And you watch Saquon go buck wild this past season and ending in the best revenge possible. He gets his first ring. So clearly, if he, like you said, if he was that good, losing Saquon, we would be laughing off that they lost Saquon. We are laughing at them that they let Saquon go. Let alone if then you type on the fact that they let it go to a division rival and everything like that. But yeah, like I said, let's get real, and I've always been of the type of that I'm going to always see to a former player who's actually been there, been in the locker rooms, been on the field, but it is a little weird, his kind of, I guess, attack narrative against Anthony Richardson. I don't understand it. Obviously, I'm not in Pat McAfee's, inner circle, so I don't know how he truly feels, whether it's playing a character or not. So I don't want to sit here and kind of judge it as if, oh, you're wrong. I will just kind of look at it at a point of that. I just hope Richardson makes him eat crow this year. You know, that's the best I can hope for. Like I said, obviously, Pat McAfee's going to have his reasons. I don't know the man personally. I do know, obviously, he's been around football. He's been around some of the best players in the world. So he's not. I can't sit here and say that he's coming from a point of kind of irrelevancy, like a Stephen A. Smith or those types. But I'll agree with you in that it's weird how hard he's pushing for it, or pushing against it, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, it would have happened with anybody. It would have happened with anybody. Colts signed Joe Schmo from the street. Oh, he's gonna be the starting quarterback over Anthony Richardson. Like, this guy just needs to chill out. This guy needs to chill out. Granted, I think he was super upset at the play that he took off, which granted everybody was, and that's not
Everybody.
the standard.
It was
Yeah,
not forgivable.
everybody
I don't think
everybody
anyone gave him a
was.
pass for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but spoiler alert, man, get over it. He came back like 2 weeks later. We were losing with Flacco. Coincidentally, what happens? He comes back the first game after the benching, and we win. Whoa, come on, bro, come on. And then what happens? We lose. We lose more games with Flacco after that. Like, come on, bro, come on.
Well, and even then, it's like with the Flacco thing, it's not like Flacco came in and like the offense started rolling. Like at least with the Minshew, we had somewhat of a capable offense. With Flacco, it's almost, obviously I understand it's like a 1-year deal, but it's almost like he fleeced us for the money. It's like, where was that Cleveland Browns Flacco where you were lighting it up? I'd argue we have a
Yeah,
better receiving core than the Cleveland Browns, especially when you were there.
yeah, yeah. And the offensive line actually was pretty good this year. And granted, like the receivers had more yards. Fantasy owners were playing like Alec Pierce and Josh Downs on weeks that Flacco was playing, but like that was all empty stats. Like, man, Josh Allen threw 2 picks against us and we lost to the Bills at home. Like the playbook, it's like you said with Minshew. Minshew was at least somewhat mobile here in his time with the Colts. I remember he had 2 rushing touchdowns against the Browns. He was somewhat mobile, but with Flacco, I mean, it's third and short. Teams are stacking the boxes. It was the most predictable shit. We had to scrap the entire half of the playbook. And it's like you said, where was the Cleveland Browns Flacco? Because we fooled people so bad to where Minshew made the Pro Bowl and he stole money from the Raiders because of Shane Steichen's play calling. And Jonathan Taylor missed games that year too. We fooled an entire organization that guy was a good quarterback. Flacco couldn't do it, and he's a Super Bowl champion. Like, come on, Pat, come on.
Yeah, I mean, we probably go on and on about it. Really, it's March, so obviously we'll see. I obviously will revisit it, whether who wins the QB battle, and we'll probably start it over all over again. So real quick, let's close it down. Obviously, last few moves, I'll call it not irrelevant, but low level. So you bring in Khalil Herbert. Ryan Kelly walks. Will Fries walks. You bring back Wesley French, Danny Pinter, and I believe re-signed one more.
Doolin.
And Ashton Doolin. So, obviously, I think the big one is obviously the Will Fries departure. Now you do have a hole at starting right guard. But you bring back Wesley French, you bring back Danny Pinter. They've been fine as backups. I think Pinter's been fine as a starter. Obviously, he's not going to start at center. That's going to be Tanner Bortolini. But Gulick, I guess we'll talk Will Fries a little bit, or even then, obviously, and the guys I highlighted or went through. If you want to highlight any of them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think with the whole Will Fries thing, I mean, Will Fries, shout out to him. He got a bag. He went for like 5 years, 88 million or something like that. Good for him. I mean, he was really good when he played. Um, but then again, he got hurt. And I mean, if you think about it, Will Fries was like a sixth or seventh round pick, and he turned out to be our starting right guard like a couple years later. So, I think Ballard's just philosophy is if you find Will Fries in the sixth round, do it again. Do it again this year. Fifth, sixth, seventh round, draft a guard. There's your guy. I mean, there's certain teams have certain knacks for certain position groups. The Colts always find offensive linemen. That's just how it goes. I mean, same thing with Pittsburgh, always finding receivers. Dallas always finds offensive linemen. The Colts always find good offensive linemen in the draft. It's just how it goes. Outside of Nelson, who was an obvious pick, a lot of these guys, even Mark Lewinsky, that dude was picked up back in 2018 or 19 off the street, and he was a good right guard for a couple of years before Fries got here. So, I think Fries was obviously the big departure, and I think that Ryan Kelly, everybody knew he was gone. But I think Fries was probably the biggest departure here.
Yeah, I'm just looking at double check. Yeah, Will Fries was the last person that we took in that 2021 draft, the seventh round pick. So obviously, so shout out to him for getting his bag. Because if you're a seventh round pick, you're getting rookie minimum deal. So obviously, get your bag, get your money, and Minnesota obviously got a great offensive lineman for JJ McCarthy's going to be starting a quarterback for them. But yeah, so it's a hole for us. Obviously, he was one of the better linemen in the league this past season. Again, however you want to trust PFF, I think they had him ranked at number 5 for right guards.
Yep.
So obviously that's elite play. Like I said, for a guy who was a 7th round pick, as I've said, day 3 is your dart round picks. If the guy works out and can be, reasonably good, great. So if you get a starter from a 7th round pick, you obviously take that. Now you've got a hole at right guard that you've got to fill. As of right now, I would say you slide in Danny Pinter, but like it's March 12th. More free agency moves be made. Obviously more, and then obviously draft is a month away, so that can change everything. So you talked about Will Fries. I guess I'll talk Ashton Doolin. Because I guess a lot of people looked at it just like it felt irrelevant, and I was just like, and I'm like, you look at it, I'm like, no, like that's the going rate for a special teams ace, and you got to remember
Yeah.
Ashton Doolin. That's where he really made this team, and that's what kept his spot on this team. Obviously he's had spot snaps every now and then in offense. If you want to go back to that week 1 game, which is where the only clips I have from, he's got the second long touchdown from Anthony Richardson in that game. So he has shown up when he's needed to, but special teams has always been his impact on this roster, and like I said, I think it was a 2-year, 16 million, something like that. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the deal he got is roughly the deal that the top special team aces get. And
Yeah.
when he plays, when he's healthy, he is one of the top special teams aces in this league. Special teams is very important. We've seen it. It's helped us beat the Chiefs the past 2 years we played them in the regular season. So you
Yeah.
can't obviously discredit the highlight of special teams. As for the Khalil Herbert thing, also because I'll just touch on it real quick. You still need the draft one because Khalil Herbert, while he'll be great as a backup. He is also not a pass catcher, and he's also not that great when it comes to pass protection. So
Yeah.
that's still a hole. But the bright side is because Ballard did attack free agency, draft is again a month away.
Yep, yep. I agree wholeheartedly with the Khalil Herbert thing too. I mean, just in terms of pure running, he's better than Tyler Goodson and Trey Sermon by a mile. But there's some great running backs you can get 7th round. I mean, geez, LaQuinn Allen from Syracuse is going to be there. He's looked at as one of the best pass catching running backs this year. That guy's going to be there. So, guys like that you can find. And speaking of special teams, I didn't realize today that Grant Stewart left. He signed with Detroit. I feel like that honestly was It's a loss. People are going to be like, "Oh, he sucked," but once again, another special teams ace. And then when he filled in on defense, one of the games where either Zaire or Speed didn't play, he had like 18 tackles. So everybody's like, "Oh, Grant Stewart sucked." No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Watch the film. You wouldn't say he sucked if you watched the L-22, and that dude was one of the big voices in the locker room. After that big game, you watch the Colts mic'd up. You got Q going up to him. He's like, "Man, I'm so effing proud of you, man. Like, you work so hard." Like, that's the dude that deserved a bag. I don't think he got a big contract from Detroit. I think he went for like a year for $3 million. But Doolin and Stewart were the two aces on special teams, and we lost one of them. So you had to keep one of them. At least we kept Doolin, but Stewart, I view that as a loss.
Yeah, and that's fair. And let's also not mention, the key word has been depth. You know what I mean? And it linebacker depth for this team has been kind of a strong suit. Obviously, we acknowledge that Ballard hasn't been great when it comes to getting starters. He's drafted guys who started off as depth and became stars. Zaire Franklin was also a 7th round pick. EJ Speed was a 5th round pick. So he's found these guys late and they've worked themselves into being stars. Obviously, Grant Stewart, not necessarily a starter, but I bet if we would have kept him, he would have been along that same path. Like you mentioned, the one game where he had to start because I think Zaire and Speed were both out actually, and he sets per his own mouth his career high at any level in tackles. You know what I mean? So one is just a reminder of that. It's kind of like with any sport that bench warmers are good. Bench warmers were still the top players when they were in college. They just get to a league where everyone's a top player in college. So obviously, it's where the men are going to separate themselves from the boys. But it's one of those losses where it's like, yes, you can replace him with a day 3 pick in the draft, but kind of like you said, it's that voice in the locker room aspect, and obviously it's a special teams aspect. You're getting a defensive coordinator, so I would say it doesn't vary too much when it comes to that part of it. But he's one of those glue guys. Glue guys are always very important.
Yeah, and he's going to Detroit. I mean, he fits that culture there, man. I mean, they got a similar culture to how we do in some ways. I mean, it's just energy, man. Energy, energy, energy. And he goes there and it's just it's a good place for it's a good place for Grant. And speaking of linebackers here, I just want to note that Speed hasn't been signed yet, and that's for a reason because a bunch of linebackers have been getting picked up. Um, yeah, whether you want to argue where he was in the league, but like Speed Speed has not been signed by anybody, and I don't know what it is with him. And maybe it's a money thing. Maybe his agent might be requesting too much. But I think, um, yeah, especially guys that we are resigning, if we wanted them back, they would be back by now. And Speed's not here, and he's gone. So he ain't coming back.
I would say it tells you one of two things. It's thing one is that other teams don't view him as a starter and they don't view
Yeah,
him as a pure special teamer. And then part two is that he is coming back. It just might be an ironing out of the numbers or even in the iron out of the role. But we'll see. You know what I mean? It's kind of like I'm on the fence with it. If he leaves, if he stays, I'm not.
yeah,
I'm right. I'm not either way about it. I would just say that it does kind of tell me though that other teams in the league don't view him as like a serious starter because the first day of free agency, you see kind of all starters sign and you see like bench rotational guys sign. You wait a few days and that's when those other guys kind of fill in there. So the only thing that really tells me is that other teams don't view him as a significant starter.
yeah. Man, he just doesn't fit this scheme. I mean, let's just be real here. I mean, I've been advocating for Tyler Warren like I did on last show, but if Jihad Campbell falls, wow. You know how much of an upgrade over Speed that is to play with Z? Oh, you can put him all over the line, man. You can have him rush the passer. He's going to cover. That guy's all over the place. So and finding linebacker, that's what we do. So and Carlisle was not bad when he played that one game, like you said, when he was out. when Z and Speed were out. So Carlisle is an okay player in his own right. So hey, if we have a linebacking core next year of Franklin, Carlisle, and Jahad Campbell from Alabama, whew, that would be serious. But Speed, I just don't think he fits. There's no way.
All right, so we got about 5 minutes, if not less, in the show left. Let's get into it. So, all the moves we have made in the past 24 hours. Now, the first show we did of the off season, I believe I went Will Johnson. You made the case for Tyler Warren. So, now, as of March 12th, Gulick, at 14, where are you going?
Yeah, I'm taking Jahad Campbell if he's there. If Jahad Campbell falls to 14, I mean, I get the Tyler Warren, you know, you got to support your quarterback, but other tight ends exist in this draft. Even your guy Arroyo from Miami, if you pick him up in the third or fourth round, he's a good player too. So, I think a coverage linebacker would be crazy. I mean, Zaire's been good, but remember when Darius Leonard was an All Pro and how much better the defense was? If you
Yep.
draft the next guy like that, whoa! That's the final piece. That's the final piece. So I'm going with Jahad Campbell all day.
All right. Call me a psychopath, but part of me still wants to say you take Will Johnson. But just to keep it different, even though I would love a Will Johnson pick, let's go James Pierce. You know what? You got the secondary. Let's get another edge in here. Let's pair him with Latu. Let's pair him with Bug. Let's rotate him with Quiddy. Whatever. I don't care. Lou needs weapons. He needs guys. You're not gonna bring in Trey. I have no you let Dio walk. Not that I'm necessarily disappointed about that. Bring another young edge in here and let Lou build another Trey, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I'm all over that. And the pipe dream for Trey as well. People have been advocating for that, but sorry to say that that's not going to happen because I see that the
Yeah.
Bengals increased their asking price today from I want to say it went from a second to third round pick to now they want a first round pick and more. Yep, it's not going to happen. So even though the guy's worth it, the guy's worth it. Don't get me wrong. We traded a first for Buckner. Um, yeah, I mean that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I think it was just a pipe dream in general. You know, I just didn't necessarily foresee it happening. And I like I've said it on my group chat. Like I said, I love all you people, but it was like a lot of people are like need to get off the Madden. Okay, like this is the NFL. Trades do not happen outside of draft day. Player trades, do not happen that often in this league. You know, we obviously, I guess maybe we've been a little spoiled because we've seen a handful in the ballot era, but they're really not that common. On top of the fact that when you do see a player move in a trade, you know, the capital or the return makes no sense. You know, like I've made the joke that like when the Browns acquired Mark Cooper went for a fifth round pick. And then when the Bills acquired him, went for a fourth round pick. You know, and then somehow the Cowboys overpay for Jonathan Mingo. So like getting Trey was a pipe dream. Obviously, made the connection because we got his defensive coordinator. You know, top sack guy the past year. It's not going to happen, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah, and I just think that one more move is coming just because of the way that the contracts are set up. I mean, just like we said earlier, can't buy them 4 for 60, but the hit on the first year is like 8 to 9 million. I didn't look at the numbers. It's on Twitter, but the way that the contract is set up, even though they're bigger looking deals, the first year on all these deals, it's pretty team friendly, and there's still money to spend. So who knows? We could throw money elsewhere on the offensive line. There's still other names out there. I mean, there just a lot of names that could come here. And right before we end the show off, real quick, I just want to note that I hope that we don't re-sign Mo Alley Cox once again.
Oh my god. Yeah, look, I said it before. I'll say it again. Really, you could release the whole tight end room and I wouldn't cry about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
he can stay off. I think Kylan Grant's a free agent. He can stay off. You know, like I said, Jelani Woods, he's a rookie contract. He can stay. Will Mallory, rookie contract, he can stay. But yeah, that room needs a full overhaul. If it's not gonna be Tyler Warren, that's fine. You're gonna draft one. But yeah, if it ain't Taysom Hill, I don't want no one off the free agent market.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, these guys. I mean, I would have liked Gesicki on a team friendly deal, but he resigned with Cincinnati. So, I I'm just so torn on what's gonna go on what's gonna happen in this draft because you got to give Lou the horses. But if you're gonna plan to start Daniel Jones, I mean, they gotta be they gotta have something up their sleeve to give this guy weapons because if you're going because you can't because every team's view is not to win as many games or it's not to get better. The objective every single year is to win the Super Bowl no matter who you have or on your roster, it either flops or it doesn't. But you can't tell me that Shane Steichen thinks that we're gonna win the Super Bowl with freaking with freaking Andrew Ogletree, a tight end, with Daniel Jones. There's no way. There is no way. And if people take that the wrong way too about that comment with the freaking Super Bowl, everybody like no, nobody's satisfied with losing. Nobody's satisfied with that unless you're Miles Garrett taking that big contract, that freaking sellout. He requested a trade and put out a whole statement about wanting to win, and then he sold out when he saw that contract.
Oh, so
But
you mean
you
he hit
can't.
these, right?
Tell them to bring me my money.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Like nobody's satisfied with losing, man. So like, man, you can't be serious with going into this year with this group. So we got to upgrade there.
Yeah, like for sure. I mean, we could probably keep going, but I'm gonna end it off here. I see a lot of you tuned in for this one. I can't appreciate you guys enough. If you're not already, obviously shoot us a follow on X, Twitter, whatever you call it. We're on the path to 4K. I think we're only like a 200 people away from that one. So obviously shoot us a follow on there. Make sure you follow our umbrella company, Sideline Sports. Follow them on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, follow them on Twitter as well. Obviously, you can catch us on their YouTube channel as well as a bunch of great other content creators, not even just football, but they cover all sports. That's why it's called Sideline Sports. They are going to be active at the NFL draft, so you're going to see a lot of live action draft coverage, maybe even some prospect interviews as they're getting drafted. But again, that's going to do it for this one. On behalf of myself, Gulick, Marcus, who could not be here, but obviously see you in the comments watching. Obviously, we love you, bro. You obviously get here soon. We need you back on the show. But for everyone at 156, we will catch you guys on the next one, and we are out.